Test, test, test. Test.
Let us know when y'all are ready.
Yeah, I was gonna talk bad about that. No, I knew, I actually met here 2 years ago. I was roughing. I was roughing a basketball game and it was in my ear. So me and him kinda had a colorful conversation. But it's funny because the game was with his 5-year-old son Noah. So it was a kid's game we were laughing about after. He was like, no, I understand where you're going. I was like, I'm not here for you, I'm here for them. He's like, yeah, I just get heated sometimes. I was like, oh no, you? Never heard a story of that.
I love the kids' games, the little ones.
Yeah, they're fun. Fun to be at, fun to ref. You had a haircut.
I did. It was a while. How was it before when you came to speak? I will say it's goofy. That's probably why. Goofy. Thank you for pointing it out. I'm just kidding. We have quorum, so we can go ahead and start. And so just when she joins, she'll join us. Okay?
Okay.
But, are y'all ready? Thank you. All right. Glad you're here. We have quorum right now, so we can go ahead and start, but she can join whenever.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:02. I can call roll. Board Member Julia Fishback.
Not here.
Okay, Board Member Ryan Ramirez. Board Member Erica Ybarra.
Here.
Board member Julie Mortgage.
Here.
Board member
Okay.
and Dupont.
Here.
Thanks. I was working off the list on the minutes. Okay. All right, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Consider approval of the Parks and Recreation Board, June 30th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
I vote that we approve the minutes as is.
A second.
All in favor?
Hi.
So Ann did the motion and Julia did the second.
And it was 5.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll move on to citizen comment period. The Parks and Recreation Board welcomes comments from citizens early in the agenda of the Parks and Recreation Board meeting. Those wishing to speak are encouraged to sign in before the meeting begins. Speakers may be provided with an opportunity to speak during this time period on any agenda item or any other matter concerning city business, and they must observe the 3-minute time limit. We'll move on to staff reports and presentations. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and provide staff feedback regarding general departmental updates on new staff, community events, programs, aquatics, staff recognitions, park partnerships, and capital improvement projects. Amy Garcia.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Amy Garcia, Assistant Director for the Parks and Recreation Department. I will giving the highlights regarding the community events, programs, aquatics, and partnerships, and then I will pass it over to my colleague, Deputy Director Chris Escoto. So just to start off, we're going to go into the July flashback for community events. As you all know, we had the July Parks and Recreation Month that was filled with different types of social media posts. We had donuts with the director at Republic Building, as well as a scavenger hunt that could be redeemed at our dive-in movie that happened on July 25th. We had staff highlights, so if any of you follow us on Facebook, we had a lot of staff highlights going on there for the conservation group, the parks group, as well as beautification and recreation. And then we also give information on Did You Know, how to follow us on newsletters, some information on our the guidebook as well. And then we will be doing a wrap-up post at the end of this month as well. And we had our movies in the park at Greg Clark Park. We had over 200 attendees. We showed the movie Mufasa, and then Kyle Market Days with the theme Red, White, and Blue with a performance by The Junction. As well as a Pitch, Hit, and Run. This was a first-time program. The competitors were able to compete for a chance to go into the regional tournament. We had over 20 participants from Hays County. I know that a few individuals came from Hutto just to participate in the Kyle Pitch, Hit, and Run. And then we had a pickleball tournament on July 19th. We had 10 competitive teams at Live Oak. This was our first time utilizing an indoor facility at Live Oak. And the competition went well. We had a lot of great feedback, and they're looking for more pickleball tournaments. July also showed the Dive-In movie that happened, 2 features. So the second feature was last Friday. We showed Moana, we showed the Moana on the first feature, and then we had a second movie on the 25th, all done at James Atkins Pool. It was by registration. This is also where individuals could come and redeem their scavenger hunt for a free t-shirt, a tote, or we also had the pins and the resistant bands that we also gave out during the NFC ribbon cutting. We had Paint and Sip on July 23rd with 11 participants at Republic, and you see the pictures shown on the right. Social Squad, we had 2 programs of Social Squad. This is on the 8th and the 22nd, and again, this program caters to individuals with disabilities 18 and over, so we had over 15 participants at Republic, and then we also had another program hosted at Krug Activity Center with over 15 participants as well. Tomorrow, we will be hosting the Adaptive Field Day in partnership with Texas State University. This is a free program that we'll be putting on, adaptive games. We also are partnering with Texas Park and Wildlife to bring out archery, as well as Kyle ER will also be coming out. It will be hot. We will have free water on site and then snacks as well. This will be done at Lake Kyle. It'll start at 6:30 and go until 8:30. And then we have Special Olympics bocce and swim also ongoing. We have practice being held at Lake Kyle for bocce and then at James Atkins Pool for the athletes. We have 5 athletes for the swim team and then 10 athletes currently participating in bocce. We have a regional meet on August 16th for bocce. Upcoming events, we'll have this Friday the All Abilities Luau Pool Party. Registration is currently open on RecDesk. August 7th, we'll do Jams on the Green. August 8th will be the Movies in the Park. August 9th, Kyle Market Days. And August 29th, the Back to School Dance for All Abilities. Upcoming programs. We will be having the August 1st through 3rd, the Kyle Kudas, the state swim meet will be hosted in Bryan. We did have 2 individuals that did qualify to compete, and then 1 automatic qualification based on age, 16 and over automatically qualify. So we have a potential for 3 candidates to participate in the Bryan state swim meet. And then on August 4th, adult trivia will be ending from Centerfield for the season. So if you have not had a chance, definitely go check us out. Centerfield today and then next Monday will be our last. And then August 2nd, we will be doing Art in the Park. August 6th, Paint and Sip, and then tennis lessons. Registration is all open on RecDesk. As I mentioned before, Special Olympics bocce on August 16th, Senior Bingo in partnership with Kyle Area Senior Zone, as well as Senior Chair Volleyball. And then we also have adult sports currently ongoing with kickball and softball. Upcoming is aquatics, so just a friendly reminder, we will be going into weekends August 9th, so operations will only be on weekends. This will be a last full week that we will have open swim through Tuesday through Friday. The pool will be closing on September 1st. These splash pads will be closing on September 23rd. And then, like I mentioned before, the regional meet on July 19th, and then we had 18 swimmers, 1 automatic qualifier. And then some of our partnerships, this is gonna highlight again the Texas State University partnership, partnering with our TR program to bring in the free adaptive field day. We will have students out. We have about 14 students scheduled to come out and assist. We have 5 different areas that they will be able to rotate through, along with the archery assistance with Texas Park and Wildlife. All right, and then any questions on any of the programs or July flashback?
I have a question.
Yep.
How, have you seen an improvement with people signing up for activities with the new rec system you guys have?
I would say we get a lot more questions. There is still some confusion for some individuals, but we have been able to answer those calls with 311 assisting and then getting them filtered through. Registration, I would say it's been pretty consistent for most of the programs that we have. We just been sending out those newsletters and then also promoting during our events to also encourage people to just create an account so they can also see what's coming up to help with registration.
And I have seen an influx on my, granted, I'm following stuff, but I have seen an influx of your advertisements for stuff on Facebook. So if you guys have tinkered with your algorithm, I think it's working, because before I wasn't getting anything and now I get quite a bit.
Yeah, we're working with our communications department to really ramp up Parks and Recreation, just the advertisement that we're putting out there. And so I think July Parks and Rec Month, we talked to communications. They also highlighted a lot of the things that we just put out, got a lot of feedback and then likes, and just really honing in on Parks and Recreation. This July Parks and Rec Month really helped.
I was going to comment that y'all are neighbors with Communications Department
That's
right
correct.
now, which is really a great collaboration. 'cause
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are able to collaborate a lot easier. They come in to our offices and we're able to do vice versa, and just to get things really quickly out. Again, with the Parks and Rec Month, we were able to collaborate on a short notice with them. So thank you to the communications department, definitely helping push the initiative.
Do y'all answer comments on there or no?
So comments are between communications and then we have a staff member that assists. Depends on the comment. Sometimes we do get some of the spam that we do go through the proper procedures to hide or to remove. But communications is helping with that. We don't have one staff member dedicated to social media.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to, like the ability to interact, and we really want to engage a lot more. We'd actually put in for a position for this budget season to help with that amongst a number of other duties. But communications has increased their staff, and so we are seeing more responses between the city page and the Parks and Rec page. We think over time it's going to continue to get better. Of course, that depends on the amount of content that we're putting out. If we're increasing in content, then maybe that bandwidth is going to really stretch. This month or maybe early August, we'll have like a recap of the numbers we saw for engagements and interactions on social medias for Parks and Rec Month to see how impactful that really was. From what we're hearing from communications, the contrast is stark and staggering. Like it's really helped out, and so we're going to try to continue with that type of online presence that we saw during this month.
Yeah, I see a lot of the pictures, but I think y'all still struggle with the promoting of things.
Yeah.
And I was mad at myself because I didn't promote flag football when I spoke, you know?
Yeah.
I know Buda does it and San Marcos does it, where whatever program they have, they're promoting it every day.
Yeah.
You know, you have 19 days to sign up for this. You now have 15 days. I haven't seen the flag football again, I guess. in about 3 years.
I think flag football was promoted twice at least. There's some kind of a blueprint that Comms is following for Facebook. I think what you're going to see from Park and Rec is no more than 3 posts per day. There's like that balance between saturation and then it's like when we do message it using maybe a different image than we did the prior time, because sometimes that gets lost. Like, oh, I've already seen this. And you just the tendency is that you ignore what you've already seen, and so we're trying to find that balance. Fortunately, we got a really talented comms group, some new additions to the team that are experts in that matter, and since they've employed some of those engagement methods, we've seen them work.
Hitting them during peak hours.
The hours, another thing as well. Like what's the sweet spot for hours? So we're just playing with things and pulling different levers. But I think the telltale is going to be like when we get our final rundown of metrics, which we are going to advertise, and we're going to keep trying to improve.
I will pass it over to Chris Escoto.
Good evening, everybody. Chris Escoto, Deputy Director, Parks and Recreation. As usual, giving you some updates regarding CIP. From a public art and landscape roundabout process, just want to give you a quick update on this. As you're all aware, there are a number of roundabouts that will be featured throughout the city, and one of these will highlight public art. The current piece that you see here on screen is Windy Hill. That will be the first piece of art that will be installed. The theme, just as a reminder, is going to be related to the cultural history of that site, which is specific to the farming that has occurred through the Dacey family. So we're currently finalizing that scope of work and looking to get that secured for a procurement bid in the next few months. So this comment here, the status itself will remain consistent probably next month as well. From a public art RFP standpoint, as you recall, this piece here called Sky Blooms will be installed at Steeplechase Park. This is something that there is a little bit of a lag on the contract just due to attorneys speaking back and forth. So we're still waiting to solidify that contract. However, we do envision that still taking about 6 months. We did have a site visit with the artist. She came on site probably about a month ago, and she gave that timeline. So we're currently working towards that, but we do expect to start production over the next few weeks here in the month of August. Public Art Master Plan, as you're all aware, this is an active master plan that we're currently highlighting. To date, this is as of last week, 7/22, there's been 279 responses. I'm pretty sure if we haven't cleared 300 yet, we're right there at the cusp. I think we were at 298 last time we checked, last week. So that's great feedback. We were targeting roughly about 300 responses. So where we are well within that reach. And similarly to the fact that Mr. Lopez and Ms. Garcia was speaking to on social media, anytime there has been public art on social, it gets a lot of impressions, it gets a lot of engagement, good and bad, but it is something that is subjective, right? Art is very subjective. So it is something that is sparking conversation, which is the intent of public art, truly. So that is something that's ongoing, and we'll be having some reports upcoming here in the next few months regarding where we are on the status of that project. The HOA Park at Silverado, this is something that we have kicked off the project. They're currently conducting the floodplain study within that neighborhood itself. So that is an active project that we'll be receiving more information. But the first step is to engage on that floodplain study based on the feedback that we've gotten from the local community. The Vibe Trail itself, or the last one was a Vibe Trail project, but this second project with the Plum Creek East Trail, we are nearing 100% planned deliverables for this. We envision this being finalized here in the month of August, I believe it is, that we'll be highlighting the last bit of information. One of the things that we have, not necessarily issues with, but some constraints, is that at the same time that this project is ongoing, right on top of this is a water line and a sewage line improvement. So we are trying to figure out the sequence, because the last thing we want to do is go in there, build the trail, and then have the water line folks go in there and just break it all apart. So we're trying to figure out the timing to best time that. So we are scheduling some conversations with our engineering department, where they are at the same stage we're at, around 100%. But the biggest thing is the land acquisition. There's still a few easements that are needed to be had in order for them to be able to securely have this entire alignment. So that is something that we're working closely with our engineering team regarding a status of construction, but we are near that 100% plan completion. From the TA standpoint, so this is the Transportation Alternative Grant that we submitted for a section of the Vibe Trail. We are on hold until October, so this has been a project that has been submitted to TxDOT, and it will take up until October for us to identify whether we've received it or not. So just want to make you all aware of that project.
Excuse me, what portion would TxDOT contribute to that 1.27?
Yeah, so that is an 80-20 grant. So they'll be contributing 80% while we're just pocketing 20%. From a CIP standpoint with Steeplechase and Waterleaf parking lots, we actually jumped on a call today. We are finalizing these plans. We do expect to go out to bid in August. There are some design constraints currently with the surfacing material, whether as far as permeable material, whether it needs to be that true grid or what they call it's a true grid system, but it's these honeycomb pavers or doing some type of permeable concrete. So we're identifying what those parameters may be, but there are some minor changes that we're working through. But we do envision going out to bid for this project in August. Just so you're aware, all of these projects, when you go out to procurement, you at least have to put them out in the streets for 30 days. So it won't be something that we'll see officially breaking ground until later this fall, sometime around October, mid-October, early November, just based on that timeline with procurement. Steeplechase Playground, if you haven't been by, I mean, there's a lot of movement happening. I did actually get an updated site visit today that I noticed that the wood that you see there, that's a seat wall. So that's for where parents can sit and watch the kids play. So that seat wall, all that wood has been removed. It is ongoing and it's nearing completion. There's a number of things that I'm sure I can probably give you an update, about 20 things that are changing every day on that area. So that is something that we are excited for, as Will likes to say, for us to see to completion. But we are looking to break ground, or to ribbon cut, I should say, at the end of next month. So that is an invitation that you should be receiving anytime as far as to save the date, once we start identifying what this timeline will be for completion. But we are almost there. The other exciting playground is Waterleaf. So that is a playground that is currently underway from a contract standpoint. It's already been approved. It's placed the order not that long ago, so it is something that is on pace to start construction, if not concurrently with this project currently that's happening at Steeplechase, just right after. But either or, we do envision at least them breaking ground before even the ribbon cutting ceremony that we have at Steeplechase. So it'll be back-to-back opening, so to say, that we're hoping to have this completed in late September, early October. Just based on the timeline, the equipment is scheduled to ship in September. So just a little bit of an update there. This scope is a little bit more simpler than Steeplechase, but we are looking to get this project moving forward. We'll have 2 brand new playgrounds here in the next couple months. Lake Kensington Nature Park, this is something that we are finalizing the schedule for the public input stage. I believe there will be some release information on when this will take place. I want to say it's around mid-August that we're going to start having some of the public engagement, but be on the lookout for that on our socials, and we'll also send out information to you all for that. But we are envisioning starting the public engagement stage here in August. To date, what's been conducted is a lot of the environmental stage, so some of the information that the consultant will be seeking primarily is going to be the recreational activities, like what type of programming elements they want to see, what's the experience they want to see while they're at, just various elements to the construction itself. But that is something that, again, will be conducted this next month. 1500 Daisy Lane. So this is a project that is out for bid. It just got out for bid this past week. There are some updated renders for the building that we'll be showcasing and releasing through socials here soon, as well as providing you all with an update as far as the renders of what it'll look like inside. So far, I mean, we've heard nothing but great feedback about how it's going to look. So we are looking forward to seeing that start. We do envision this item going to council about mid-September for approval of whichever firm gets selected for construction, with the timeline being somewhere, I think it says, doesn't say here, it just says Q3. But the completion date, we're looking to be somewhere around January at this point, just based on that updated timeline. Waterleaf Park restrooms. So this is a current project that we are looking to get started on in the next month. The restroom itself is being fabricated, and we are finalizing a lot of that information from a permitting standpoint. So this will be coming soon. So there's a lot of construction that's happening right now with this being one of the last park restrooms based on a prior project that this staff has inherited. The skate park itself, the skate park was provided to you all, I believe it was this past past month, the final render. We did go to council to present this item. It was well received. We are moving forward with the technical documentation, and we are targeting that construction timeline to begin about early November, potentially late October. But we do envision also having a groundbreaking ceremony for this, where we'll be inviting you all to that. So more information to come about that. The Sportsplex itself, there's a dedicated item to this, so I'm not going to touch too much about it. But overall, the master plan was approved, and Mr. Lopez will actually be leading that conversation with you all and walking you through the various stages of this. But ultimately, the site itself is north of La Verde Park, and it highlights an indoor recreation center facility, highlights various sport courts, pickleball center, playground, soccer fields, and a bunch of various amenities that we'll be able to highlight in this next item. This is just a little bit of a build-out strategy that highlights the various stages. The price itself does seem, obviously it's a lot of money. It's not going to be done all at one time, but again, I'm not going to touch too much about that. One last thing that I do want to highlight, and just want to thank you all, and Mr. Ramirez, thank you for speaking at the NFC Fitness Court ceremony this past week. I think it was a great event, and it was well received, and I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
I have a question. Out of curiosity, so if it is a city park, there will be a City of Kyle sign in the park. Is that a correct statement?
For which facility?
Just any park. So I live over on the east side, and by Rampage Elementary, we went for a walk, and there was like a splash pad and a dog park. It had a generic sign. It was not City of Kyle. So I was curious if that's an HOA park,
Gotcha.
or is that a city park? Because I know when the developers come, we give them, what is it called, parkland dedication?
Right, yeah. To answer that question very quickly, if it's park property, developed park property, there will be branding that it does recognize that it's a City of Kyle Park. One thing that we are looking to do, which I'll add to this, but we are looking to update our monument signage. So a lot of those signage that do exist currently in the park will be upgraded. That way you'll be able to see that it is a City of Kyle Park, and the branding itself will be recognized once you walk into a park space. But if it's an HOA park, I can't speak to whether or not they're going to have signage. If it's a public park, that will be something that we'll be coordinating with them to highlight some type of public park element, whether it's a name of the park or if it's just a simple sign. We're still working on our standards, but that will be something that will be highlighted if it's a public park in a partnership with an HOA.
So if it doesn't have a City of Kyle Park, it's an HOA park, is a safe assumption?
That's just based on how you're explaining to me that's the
Okay.
assumption. But if you want to send us more information about that, we can confirm that with you.
Yeah, because then I was curious if it's parkland dedicated, but they're not, because if I remember correctly, there was a newer park that one of the developers had asked for parkland dedication like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was wondering if that was it, and if it's it doesn't look like it's, I was able to go in there and hit the button to turn the splash pad on, but it wasn't clear to me if I should be there or if it was
Gotcha.
in fact open to the city. So I can drive past it tomorrow and get you the actual name of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, there are various negotiation points when it comes to various developers, whether it's public or private. If there's credit, usually the standard is that there is some type of public element to that. But if you give me more details, we'll be able to get you that answer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. Most people probably know that the mayor announced that he'll be stepping down a year early from his term. And so I think several council members are running. It's an off-year election. It's 2025 November. So if you know community members, I mean, it's going to be a fair amount of turnover on our city council and probably low turnout the elections. So we just hope to get the word out that we need good public citizens in those places.
Thank you.
As long as I'm making a comment. There's one other thing. until August 5th, they're taking public input on how the block grant money should be spent, and it's not a whole, in these other buckets of millions, it's $275,000, but as in the past, they're gonna take those federal funds and put them into the sewer. And when we got the COVID recovery money, they put all 12 million into the sewer, and it kind of stunk, It's just like, it should be spent on Parks and Rec, and they're putting a lot of extra duties on Parks and Rec. And in a way, that's good, because I feel like your staff is really capable and doing good things for our city. But that needs to be reflected in the budget, and, maybe somebody ought to say, you're really going to bury all that money again? Some could wind up on the front page, again.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something that staff could look at from a CDBG standpoint. I'm personally am familiar with a CDBG program where you can use it for park funds, or park projects, I should say, but there are very strict procedures on how you use that.
Yes.
It needs to be in a low mod area. There's a certain target population that you have to
Yes.
get to.
They
but-
set 10 priorities back last year when they first got their funding. And really, trails, sidewalks, parks, those are at the top of the list. And then maybe number 4 or 5 is sewer. And if it's not that much money, why not make it seen by the public instead of,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's that balance. I can't speak for
Yeah.
that department, but it will be something that we could at least touch base with them.
And I won't speak that
to-
in public, because
get
I
there.
too have experience with block grants, and I've seen it handled very differently, so they don't like to hear from me.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Sharp does not. We're going to move on to the next agenda item. Receive report, hold a discussion, and provide staff recommendations on design services for Phase 1 of the adopted Kyle Sportsplex Master Plan and a feasibility study for a proposed indoor recreation center. David Lopez, Director of Parks and Rec.
I think that's
Or-
the 4th item.
Did I skip
Yeah,
one?
We did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see. And provide staff feedback regarding the upcoming 2025 Christmas decorating services at Lake Kyle, Laverde, and Mary Kyle Hartson Park. Chris Escoto, sorry.
Chris Escoto, Deputy Director.
Yeah, it's here.
What's that?
Yeah, it's Christmas in July right now. And so before I begin, I just want to recognize one of our staff members here. It's Benito Peretta. I'm sure you may have met him before, but I just want to recognize him. He's our Park Maintenance Division Manager. I know he's done quite a bit of work getting a lot of the stuff that you'll see in this presentation, but he's also, I forget what we call him, the logistics manager, logistics coordinator, when it comes to getting all this set up out at the park. So I just wanted to thank him for everything that he's done this past year, and also getting him ready for everything that's coming this upcoming year. So with that, I'm just going to give you a quick recap of 2024 and give you a program overview of what's upcoming here of 2025 as far as how we're going to be enhancing it, and some other ideas that staff has, just getting your general feedback on. So for fiscal year 2024, what we had allocated through the budget process specific to Christmas holidays was $500,000. To date, we have identified $335,000 that were used out of that available $500,000 budget. So with that, just to give you a quick reminder of what this program does, it does give a variety of lighting through Mary Kyle Hartson Park, Lake Kyle, Laverde Park, also down Center Street. There's various lighting improvements with garlands, lights, and so forth that are part of that program. The lights, it was featured, I think we call it 25 days of, it says it on there, 25 days of Christmas programming. The programming itself is Thursday to Sunday, but ultimately the lights come on every day, starting at 5:30 all the way to 10 o'clock, and we do have it staffed. So this past year was my first year, and I thought it was a great year. There was a lot of people that were out there every single time that I was there. So overall, there's a number of programming elements such as Santa's Arrival, Grinch Fest. That was, from what I hear, it gets better and better every year. So we're looking to expand that program itself. This last year was under a different department, the communications department actually, but this upcoming year, Parks and Recreation will be taking the lead on this event. We do have Santa Rides in Kyle, as well as the 25 days of Christmas programming that I mentioned in that. Attendance that we're estimating is roughly about 12,000 plus, both local and external outside visitors that come to Kyle. Here's a little bit of the photos just to highlight that recap. We have Grinch Fest. That day I was there. I mean, it was a very cold day, cold, wet day. We wish we'd have had more people, but overall the people that did show up seemed to enjoy the event, and we look to expand on that. As well as you see the various elements that are out there at La Verde, as well as Mary Kyle Hartson. 2025 proposed. So we have the same budget this upcoming year, but we are looking to elevate this a little bit more and try to get more out of what we have, so to say. So with that, it's still the same locations. What you'll see in the next few slides is going to be what we had this past year and what we're proposing this next year. So there'll be a highlighted element that'll give you what's going to be new. So with that, we are looking to also get some holiday banners, hardware, just upgrade a lot of the systems that we have in place. There's a number of branding elements that we're looking to do. As you're all aware, we previously used to have Pi Capital banners. We're moving away from the Pi Capital branding, but we are looking to bring those holiday banners during that season to be able to add that element. We're also looking at an opportunity to light the water tower that's right here behind us. So we're going to give you a little bit of ideas for that. I'm still waiting for the installation component and a little bit of the logic of why we're navigating in that manner. So some of the event outlooks, similarly, like I mentioned, Santa's Arrival, Grinch Fest will be something that the city will be, or Parks and Recreation will be inheriting, and then the typical 25-day programming and the Santa Rides in Kyle. So what you see here is what the layout was last year. Just to point out a few things that we're going to be changing, just keep your eye on the gingerbread house towards the entrance of Mary Kyle Hartson, or the Krug Center, I'm sorry, and the coffee mug or hot cocoa mug, whatever that is on the south side. We're looking to just add new elements to the park itself. So as you see what's proposed, there are a number of things that are being added. We're changing the mug to a candy cane. There's other candy cane with a nutcracker element, and there's a penguin being highlighted. There's a number of features that are being integrated, a lot of photo op opportunities here at Mary Kyle. Just a comparison. Another note that I want to highlight is that we are going 30% more on the lighting of the trees. So we're trying to get a little bit taller in there. So just a visual of what it could look like. And this 30% across the board for all trees, but one of the ones that was so-called in question, so to say, is the red oak, the big significant red oak that is at Mary Kyle Hartson, that we are wanting to elevate it a little bit more taller. So that is something that we're looking to do, and also working with our conservation team to make sure we're not impacting the health of the tree itself. So Lake Kyle Park, what you look this past year, one thing I want to highlight is that the lighting of the trees, kind of in that middle area, are only halfway. So this next one, you'll see that they're fully lit. They're lit all the way through. There are added photo op opportunities for you to be able to walk through and integrate with, and just backdrops. So that is something that is being added. Bit of a comparison. And the features, just to give them to you in scale. Now, La Verde Park. La Verde Park, you'll see that there's going to be a lot of things that are moving around here. And this, with it being the first, I guess, Grinch Fest, so to say, this programming element at La Verde Park, we were looking, and to my knowledge, it was the first event. I could be wrong, but it was the first event. But we were looking to just logistically kind of rearrange everything and make it flow a little bit better. And then also with the construction that is finalizing on Avenue A, we're looking to add additional elements for us to integrate with once you get into the park space. So that's what you see highlighted here. So you do see that we moved the centerpiece that used to be right in the middle of the lawn, kind of catty-cornered one of the things that we were seeing was we had to stake all the lines, all the electrical lines, because all the outlets were on the outskirt. And so they were creating trip hazards where we were just trying to figure out a way to navigate that. But it is something that we catty corner out on the outside skirts where you can still have that pop, you can still integrate with it, but you could also still enjoy the event lawn while watching any type of performance. And there are new elements that were added, such as the ornaments that you see on Avenue A that I spoke about. There's a rocket ship that was added. There's a number of things, the ornaments along the stage that were added as well. Here's a little bit of what we're looking to do. So the two on the right, these were ordered by the city last year. However, they did not ship in time to be highlighted at this last event, but they will be ready and they'll be showcased at this upcoming Grinch Fest Festival and really the Verde Park programming. And what you see there is Whoville, just kind of fits into the theme of the Grinch, of how we're working to do. So La Verde Park, the comparison itself. Before I move on from the lighting and talk about the water tower, are there any questions?
Do you have like any activities for kids that go on there?
Activities as far as programming element. There are, and maybe I could have Amy speak about some of the programs that have, but I do know that there's a number of events that we do have staff integrate and showcase, whether it's performances, whether it's activities for them to come out and play. As I mentioned earlier, we do have this event staffed, both from the maintenance side of the house, but also the recreation side of the house, where they showcase various events. I don't know if you want to speak about specific programs.
What I'm asking is, I don't know if, hopefully y'all been there. If y'all haven't, go. Santa's Wonderland, like at College Station. Their lights are real nice, real beautiful out there. They have like horses and carriages that'll take people.
Oh, gotcha.
around,
Yeah.
walking around. Or they have like the slides with the blankets, I guess, for the kids to go. But they're extra cost. I mean, I don't know if y'all want to make revenue off of anything, but I mean, I think could be something to talk about later on.
Yeah, and Santa's Arrival kind of is like that, where we bring a number of games, and really it's just the lighting event itself. That's where we have a number. I think there was a rock climbing wall. There was vendors. There was random things that were out there for that opportunity. But again, I'll let Ms. Garcia speak about a little bit more.
That's definitely something that we can look into. It does, like you said, it has an impact on budget, not only staffing, but just overall budget. We already have what we're projecting or what we're requesting for this upcoming fiscal year, but that can be something that we look into moving forward. I know right now with Mary Kyle Hartson, we have the 25 days programming, which does take staffing. I know the programming says Thursday to Sunday, we still have staff out there to make sure and maintain the lights and make sure the lights go on and just provide that customer service out there and to check out Lake Kyle and La Verde Park. But that's something we can look into.
Yeah, and those staff members also are there, of course, in case anybody wants to take a photo. Our staff can snap their photos as well.
Yeah, and another thing we're looking at is, to your point, revenue opportunities. Like in some cases, a vendor may be incentivized to bring activities where it doesn't cost the city more money if it's lucrative to the vendor. And so I know Ms. Garcia is reaching out for one particular activity that we'd like to see showcased at one of the sites, but we don't have enough information to release on that because we need to gauge interest and decide if we need to go out for a quick RFP. But it is on our radar.
Any other question?
I have a question with the budget. So if it was 500,000 last year, we didn't spend the whole amount, and then 500 this year, what is material and what is resource? So is the 500,000 including the staffing to put up everything, or is that just material? Like the lights and everything else that goes along with it?
Yeah, that's a turnkey service. So it's a turnkey service when it comes to the materials itself. So one of the bits of pieces that I failed to mention, so I apologize, is that some of these pieces are owned by the city of Cal. So there are some pieces that the city owns, and then there's others that we rent. And from that standpoint, there is a labor charge for us to be able to go out there or have them basically install our pieces. And eventually down the line, we are going to have to renovate those pieces just because they're wearing out. But it is a turnkey service where they are installing, that we are paying the labor installation on that end. And there are other avenues that our staff does such as some of the lighting down Center Street or the banners. That might be an in-house service where that's not necessarily allocated out of the 500,000 because we already have the staff, but there could be hardware, there could be things like that that could be charged to that from a holiday standpoint.
Okay, and I asked, because I think last year we talked about this, and 500,000, like, it seems like a lot of money, but it's not really when you take into consideration everything that's going on. But if you could communicate to, like, out of that 500,000, X amount is actually material that Kyle now owns, right? To like, it's an investment as well into our supply of Christmas stuff versus we're just renting it, right? Because the
Right.
number is large, people are getting sensitive to the budget, so it may be helpful to articulate that. Also, we're bringing a lot of people to Kyle by doing this, and it might behoove us too to like, hey, here are the numbers. If we have something like impact statement, like we've seen an influx of people coming to businesses here, might also help with our budget as well.
For sure, yeah. And that is something that we're looking, the city does currently highlight like a crowdsource software that we're able to grab a lot of those metrics. It actually was in our budget this year that didn't make the list for us to elevate that level of service, for us to be able to pull a lot of those numbers and also show the data that you're exactly referring to. Like, hey, this individuals or majority of individuals, 20% of individuals go to Buc-ee's, before they get to Mary Kyle Hartson. I mean, there's metrics like that you're able to pull from that. But that is something that we could very well do a little bit better job on highlighting what that may be.
I think it'd just be helpful, especially people are sensitive in general of the budget, to highlight that as well. Like, hey, here's the cost, but this is the benefit of us doing this for the city of Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Is there a plan for downtown as the lights go up? Because I know traffic backs up way over there. And I need to get right there so I can go that way to maybe detour. And I know a lot of drivers get upset because you're actually supposed to stop right there, let people cross.
No.
They don't
They
do that
don't
with
like to
lights.
stop.
Tis the
Yeah,
season.
They don't like to stop. So it's like, hopefully nothing ever happens and nothing has it, I guess. But is there a plan to make it safer? Maybe
From a just pedestrian standpoint, there could be avenues that we could explore for this upcoming season. I can tell you as further development of downtown happens, those are things that we are looking to do, whether it's, I don't want to say permanently close any roads down, but you could put like bollards, adjustable bollards in areas, or we can close down certain roads. I can tell you that whenever we have events such as Santa's Arrival and such, we can't close Center Street because it's TxDOT. But there are other roads that we can close, and maybe we could staff it to where we have cross guards or something, so to say, just to elevate that level of safety. So that could be something that we can explore.
Would it be possible to put a detour in for just like 2 blocks and have traffic go down Lockhart Street?
I don't want to say yes or no right now. It'll be something that we'll have to evaluate a little bit further and work with our public works team and transportation team just to see what alternative ways we can get to navigate into the space.
Yeah, it is like a state, 150 is like a state road or something, so we may not have that control.
Right. Yeah, we're very limited in what we have here, but again, noted, and we'll take note of that and look into the programming element. All right, so the water tower. So the water tower itself, it has been something that there has been a appetite from council to light the tower, but one of the added elements that we're speaking to that we're looking to not only have people here in Kyle attend these events, but maybe bring in folks from outside where it can help offset a lot of these costs once you start having them go into local restaurants, gas, and so forth. So one of the things that we're looking to do is light the tower. That you'll see a few renders here of what that may look like. We do want to note that it will be dark sky compliant. So knowing that there's a lot of the bird migration that occurs, that we are cognizant of that we want to make sure that we're not blinding our birds. But so we are going to be moving forward with a dark sky compliant system, but also LED. It will be LED capable where you're able to get variations of color, so similar to our gateways as you enter the city, or even Seton. We can match seating. You can have it whatever color you want. There's various variations that you'll see. But one of the things that we're looking to explore is, hey, is there an opportunity for us to, you could probably tune into a radio station and then it starts dancing to music, or it starts doing some type of integration at 9 p.m. every day. So, something along those ends that we're still exploring. But just trying to bring that element of surprise in a way, but also of recreation, that a family can come to this event here and then they could sink in and see the light show, so to say. So that's just an idea, not to say that's going to happen, but just one of those elements that we're trying to see it as an opportunity, not only for Christmas, but maybe year round, because this will be installations that will happen. Once it's installed, it'll remain. So that's what you'll see. It's a one-time cost. We are looking to still identify the installation implication. As of right now, it's estimated to be under $50,000 for us to light the water tower. It's $40,000 just to be exact, but we're still waiting on the installation piece. So again, going back to that budget element, I mean, it's well within that range. It's not something that we're going outside of our budget. We're just looking to elevate and enhance the space itself. So here's a little bit of the renders, just to give you a little bit of an idea. There are bars that you see around that you're able to have different displays. All the lights are shining down, so it'll come from the top of the tower and then the legs as well. Here's other elements that you can play with. And that's all I have for that. Any questions?
That would be great for high school game days.
Yeah.
You know, big wins throughout the city for each high school. That'd be really awesome to have that light up.
Well, you know, like if Hayes and Johnson win.
Well, do it awesome. Alternate the color.
Any questions, feedback, thoughts, concerns?
I had a little history. Pete Dress, you know, the Pete Dressen public housing over there. Anyway, Pete was mayor in 1976, was the bicentennial, and he was the first one to paint it red, white, and blue. So that's how that came. 1976.
Some people refer to it as a bomb pop, but yeah.
Ready to go on to the agenda item 4. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and provide staff recommendations on design services for Phase 1 of the adopted Kyle Sportsplex Master Plan and a feasibility study for a proposed indoor recreation center. David Lopez, Director of Parks and Rec.
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair and Park Board members. Just waiting for the, there we go. All right, so just wanted to give you guys an update on the Sportsplex Master Plan that was adopted last council meeting, last regularly scheduled council meeting, I should say. And then talk to you all about next steps and get some feedback from you all. So we're gonna have to go through the site context, some of the project's background and history. We'll go through the whole master planning and visioning process, which some of you were part of if you participated in any of the engagement town halls for the PROS Master Plan. We're going to talk about what we heard and then the evolution of the site plans for the Sportsplex Master Plan as well. Just for sake of clarity and definitions, we get the question sometimes like, you know, you guys throw master plan out there a lot. What is a master plan? Well, the PROS Master Plan, the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Master Plan that is more like a system comprehensive master plan for Parks and Recreation. So it's going to talk about the vision, the mission for 10 years, the implementation processes, parks classifications, and corresponding goals. Whereas feasibility studies are more like, usually they're going to involve like some type of interior facility, and a site master plan, like we're going to be discussing today, is going to talk about site layouts and the visioning for a particular park. And so here's a little bit of the site context for the master plan. The green, what we call the dumbbell in the middle, is the Sportsplex site. So it goes out, this map shows a radius of 2 feet, which is typical for a community park and its impact. And this is just north of La Verde Park, off of 1626, really close to the new sprouts that you see going up, Heroes Memorial Park, close to Nitro Swim on the east side of the complex. So if you're looking at it like a dumbbell, the dumbbell handle would go under 1626 and connect the east and the west portions of the property. So just a quick journey through of the background. In November of 2020 or 2020, there was a park bond approved for the site and the park itself. And then in July 2020, that was $7 million. And then July of 2022, there was a county match through an interlocal agreement, so $14 million in total for the project. And then in June of 2024, the site master plan contract was approved by City Council, and that's when we started the engagement and the study process. So a big part of that contract for the site analysis was all of the surveying that you undergo for any park project. So topographical surveys, tree and boundary surveys, and you need to look at the floodplains of the areas, what's conducive for development for a facility versus an athletic field. And then once you know those site constraints and all the other possibilities for it, you start going into the visioning process, and that's where public input comes in and the design charrettes. You want to hear from the City of Kyle. Also, you need to know by national park standards where we're deficient. And so those are prioritized, and then you start developing your concepts for the site. And then finally, you get into the fine-tuning of what the master plan layout is recommended for. And involved in this process, besides the public input and the online surveys, was a task force that gave regular feedback as we provided updates throughout the project. And in that is also included any phasing, funding opportunities. So we're going to start from the beginning, and you know where we were initially at is there are certain assumptions that are made. It's almost like a hypotheses that are made in a scientific method. But what we thought we wanted to see and what we thought was important for the community. And so what we started at was competition grade facilities. We wanted something that was going to be an economic driver that the city could be proud of, that was interactive, that could be seen as a destination venue, was inviting for locals as well as visitors, inspiring, interesting. And then the goals that came out of that was a multi-purpose destination. So this could be used, the indoor facility that was versatile, that could be turned over for different types of events and sporting activities. They would connect to the community, would be some kind of a draw for the local user as well as the regional user. That would enhance our system and where we were deficient at, boosting the economy and the vibrancy, and then provide some kind of identity for the City of Kyle. Again, this is our starting point. So as we progress through the process, we start with the first concept I'm going to show you guys, which was emphasizing on regional draw, was heavily recreation focused and high level athletic and sporting focused. So here's that first blush concept we call concept A. And so if you notice, again, just a quick walk through the site. On the west side of the complex, you got most of the athletic fields, like at the competition level, close to some type of indoor facility to be determined, but that would ideally be used for high-level tournament and like field house usage. And then the parking that would come in a multi-tiered parking garage, as well as sports courts, splash pads, Grand Plaza facility. And then you've got a trail system that is going to connect to you can go under 1626 over from the west side to the east side, and then more soccer fields. I will say that there are a lot of floodplain constraints for this property, and so this concept would be really expensive to develop athletic fields on that east side. If you're familiar with it, I think Sovereign Spices or Sovereign Flavors is located just adjacent to sort of that northeast quadrant. And it's a lot of floodplain and drainage area for the site. So to get that up to par, to be floodplain compliant, and also make the fields playable and usable, it's a huge investment. And so some of these initial concepts were $20 million higher even to achieve that than what you're going to see in the final recommended concepts, or what was ultimately adopted. So concept B is not as much focus on the high-level athletic field tournament style usage. It was more community focused. There's a lot more passive recreation incorporated. There's still an indoor facility that's a part of it. And so what you see here is now starting from the east side, those athletic fields are now replaced by a court complex, pickleball court, namely, And then you see more of the passive usage, like green space, as you move to the south end of the property. But it's really passive, just a lot of trails. And then going over to the west side, you have some kind of indoor field house. Now I'm looking at the southwest quadrant, heavily in sports courts. I think there's even a pump track that's in there and identified by an F, if you guys can see that above the parking area. There's total of 4 athletic fields. These are full-size soccer fields. 4 on the southern portion, 2 on the northern portion, and then parking accommodations. But you don't see that vertical parking structure that you saw in the previous one.
Why are there so many soccer fields?
Soccer was identified as again, the assumptions made before the pros come out that there would be there's a deficiency still in our system, and that got fleshed out actually during the master planning process. We had more ball diamonds, even though the ball diamonds aren't of the highest quality. Master plan does address implementing ball diamonds in our system, but some of the east side parks that already have them, it would be enhancing what's there. There's some other opportunities that you saw came out of the master plan, like with Cal Vista, but and then you've got Greg Clark Park that could use enhancement for more competitive grade type ball diamonds. So we really didn't have anywhere for soccer fields, which we had a high deficiency in. So now it's like all these assumptions are made. Now, what did the national standards actually show deficiency in, and what did the community actually say was important to them? Because hypothetically, the community could have said during the pros master plan process, we don't really care about soccer. All we want are ball diamonds everywhere in Kyle. It's all we need, everywhere you go. But as you'll see, that's not what came out of the process. And so out of 4,000 data points and over 1,100 surveys completed, 8 community pop-up events, 2 community input meetings or town halls. We had focus group meetings, conservation. We had one for trails and park advisory board meetings. We heard that the community does definitely want recreation and sports facilities, but they want a diverse inventory. They want soccer fields, pickleball, they want some basketball, and also volleyball courts. Sportsplex needs to solve for that, or could solve for that. Also, there was a strong desire for trails. In fact, trails were the #1 ask through the pros master plan. These are for outdoor amenities. So we did distinguish between what do you want to see in outdoor parks and then what do you want to see in indoor, which I'll get to momentarily. So trails were uber important for the city of Kyle. Also, we were happy to hear that conservation was important for Kyle residents. And so we look at opportunities across our system to really enhance and protect some of these precious conservation areas. It doesn't make sense for every area in Kyle to be conservation heavy. For instance, like we need ball fields, and maybe in some of the areas where ball fields exist, it's just not conducive to good conservation, or you don't have a yield of special resources in those areas. And so we find that balance. That's something we believe definitely the master plan accomplished. And then residents put a heavy focus on, let's take care of what we have. We got a lot of work to do with enhancing or refurbishing what we already have, and let's make that a priority before we go too far with adding the new. Now you got to balance that with, well, we agree with you, but there are still a lot of things that we lack, and the city continues to grow. So again, just a quick recap, you see that trails were the highest priority, followed by playgrounds. Again, this is for outdoor. They want to see gathering spaces. And so give you all a few minutes to digest some of those needs. Also, that was concurred with by the national standards, and we'll get to see like a recap of that gap that exists. So what we heard for indoor, this was really interesting to us because the highest percentage of demand from those who took the survey and showed up at our town hall meetings was they wanted to see for indoor recreation fitness and a gym, which is kind of counterintuitive to like destination. If you're coming from Round Rock or San Antonio to Kyle, you're passing probably 20 big box gyms in either direction. And so when we see things like that, we know that there's an emphasis on what what we need locally here in Kyle that would primarily serve Kyle residents. And so 55% was the overwhelmingly most requested things for indoor. And then it's followed by indoor basketball courts. People say, hey, it's Kyle's hot. We want to play, we want things for our kids that are indoors and climate controlled. And then all of the other sports closely follow behind. There's still a high demand for programming rooms and community space, so that can't be ignored, as well as indoor aquatics. So to things that we wanted to consider that also came out of the public input process, we promised the residents that we were going to capture everything that was said, even if you weren't in support of this. And so some of the concerns or challenges that were raised were the increase in taxes for some. Like, we're not really excited about taxes going up to fund an indoor facility. And others said, well, we don't mind an increase as long as what we're paying into primarily, in some cases exclusively, serves Kyle. And we got a lot of feedback on that. And then the budget and cost of things, like what's the balance between, even if it serves Kyle, we want to be responsible stewards of what we're getting. And then some even asked, which always makes us happy, the maintenance and operations that comes with it and any costs associated. And so we wanted to make sure that their voice was captured and factored into this equation. And so here's a snapshot of where we're at today and some of the deficiencies. I will point out one error in this chart, and that is that this was, again, community garden was still a work in progress when we started a little bit early. I think we had just cut the ribbon on it around this time, but the community garden shows 0. There is 1, and so we're meeting the standard with 1 garden. But we were good on dog parks. We were good on splash pads by national standards. Our loops as well as the disc golf courses, but we were deficient in a lot of other areas, as you all can see. So with the final adopted sportsplex option I'm going to show you, it will solve for a lot of these. I think there's 7 in total that will be solved for. So you see in green, like these are things that we were already good on, and then the blue are the things where we were in the red, and now we're in the green. So not only it's dog parks, splash pads, the loop trails, disc golf, multi-use courts, pickleball courts, volleyball courts. We're still under the standard for soccer, but it gets us a lot closer than we were. And that's not even accounting for those East Side Park master plans. Some are undergoing, and then there were some that were recommended on the developed parks. So, I mean, if money was no object, which it always is, the master plan has to get us closer to being at the standard. And if we had the funding to implement, it would accomplish that. That doesn't say whether you're going to get funded for it, just says we're going in the right direction. Our planning is strategic. So quick concept highlights before I feel like there's a lot of teasers before we get to the adopted master plan. But again, we wanted to reflect that community feedback as well as with the national standards. There's a desire for recreation as well as the passive usage. And there's a lot of missing amenities that we need to solve for. So now, starting with the east side, you see in the southeast quadrant, there is what would be like a destination, all-inclusive playground in the area. And then going north of the east side, now that would be a pickleball complex. There's a lot of demand for pickleball. We don't have any in our system currently, as well as a passive green space that you saw earlier with all of the loop trails and the connectivity, and we connect all the way going to the west side under 1626. We have still some soccer fields, but we incorporated a little more synthetic fields. I know they're hot in Texas, but there's got to be a balance too, because especially when you're in floodplain or you want to maximize usage, you really should consider or not take off the table synthetic, because on a competitive turf field, you're really limited to about 12 hours a week before you put a lot of wear and tear and you start seeing significant damages on them, or otherwise it's a lot of money renovating them every year or the cost of maintaining them. So we see a hybrid option, some synthetic, some natural. The championship court identified by the C would have some stadium seating, I think 1,500 seats. So this can not only be used for soccer, but it could be used for small concerts or different types of events, maybe some type of fairs. And then you still have the soccer. Now you got the basketball courts, you got volleyball courts. That's sort of on the far west side. And then the parking spaces that you would need to accommodate. You got more courts as you approach the recreation center, which is the square shape, the white square. That's estimated at 100,000 square feet, and so those numbers could change. It just carves out a footprint so you can build into as much as you need. Again, this is what was factored in, and this is subject to funding. And so with that, we said, okay, we got to have some responsible build-out strategy. At $161 million for this project, there's no way that it's financially feasible for us to build out this entire thing, but we need direction. So all the master plan tells us is that if you do decide to develop this site, we need to develop towards the needs of Kyle. And there's a recommended phasing, which is what you see here in the various colors. And so although we don't have a phase 1 through 5, there is a recommended strategy. Right now, we have the $14 million from the 2020 bond and the county match, and then other funds identified within the city buckets to get us closer to $30 million. And so we're like, hey, what's a good start for this with existing funding? And that would be Area 1A that you see in the green. And so tonight we're going to talk about, get your feedback on a design contract to start working towards building construction documents to develop that with the funding that we have. We've got to do something with the money. And then if we're going to do anything else, what would be next? Well, the community and council could say, we want to just jump right to 4. But it's that's $19 million, and maybe that's what's important to us. But anyway, we wanted to carve these up into digestible chunks to take some action on, because that's the purpose of the master plan, is to give some guidance. We could be in a holding pattern based on funding, but the plan is still there. It's been adopted, and so if it becomes a priority or funding becomes available or the demand increases, then here's the playbook. So that's the total. Yes, sir.
The question is, the indoor fitness was the top priority of Kyle, and then the basketball courts were the top, was second. Why are we going away from that?
Well, there's two parts of that. Outdoor had priority, which was like trails and conservation, and then you got the sports. So that was higher for outdoor. But when you got to the indoor, it's like, okay, now for indoor, let's take outdoor off the table. What's most important? And that would be fitness, and which we'll get to momentarily when we start talking about the one piece of the contract. Because the indoor, we haven't done a lot of work on that. It's like, we know it's important to residents, but now we've got to start doing that, digging deeper, more due diligence, what we call a feasibility study. Does anybody have any more questions on this slide before I advance?
I have a question on one of your statements. You didn't have pickleball courts, the numbers you had, we didn't have pickleball courts, but we just had a pickleball tournament.
Currently, we have to reserve facilities around the city. So I think there's one complex that we use. There's an indoor and an outdoor facility that we use. Ms. Garcia is going to elaborate.
Yes, so we currently partner with one of the local apartments for the pickleball at Arden, and then we utilize indoor. We've actually used Layman at one point, and then we recently just now used Live Oak for indoor.
So these aren't designated pickleball courts where the public could use free of charge whenever they would like. And I believe some comments we received on our socials, it was like, pickleball, where's pickleball? A lot of people are really wanting to see that in some of the design implementations that are upcoming.
I do have a question about the hiking trails. I know that we've gone back and we've created shade areas and rest areas in some of our parks because we didn't pre-plan for the sun beating down on us. Will we be taking that into consideration?
Yeah, thank you. We will, and actually I'll be able to show you all some renderings shortly that might highlight some of that. So between trees and if they're seating areas, having some type of shade fabric, it's not always, shade's expensive, especially when it's synthetic, but there are opportunities for trees and using existing trees. Another thing on this side is there is a live oak mott on the closer to 1626 where the championship field is outlined. That tree mott we're going to protect. It's a live oak tree area, and it's got a lot of conservation value. So we're really trying to find the balance here. So just, we're gonna zoom in to Area 1A, which is the recommended first area to start at. Just makes most sense with existing funding. And so that's just the cost breakdown for that particular area, totaling $30.6 million. That's, again, that's an estimated opinion probable cost of construction. The infrastructure needed for this is that Cromwell Extension Road that you see coming from the south up through the north end of the site. And so that would be coming on a different contract to build that first. So here we have the soccer fields viewing north of 1A, just, there we go. So 1A is what we're just showing here. And so from these soccer fields, now we're gonna look north. You see that main promenade kind of going through and the fields. So there's a lot of seating opportunity. There's some natural shade there with trees, although they take a while to grow out. And then at the Cromwell, you see pedestrian bridge and that Cromwell Road going over one of the swell areas. This is the bridge viewing east. So again, you don't see the details here, like in the site master plan is not going to dive so deep where it's going to tell you you need an art piece here. It's going to be a bull or a bear, like Wall Street. It's just an example of what could be there. Is this Wall Street? Yeah. No, that's not set in stone. Neither the murals, but it's just art opportunity. And then the basketball courts viewing north. There's some shelter structures for shade. Then area 1B, this is north of that one area and just north of the trail that bisects the center of the campus, going from east to west. It's going close to Rickerson, $11.2 million for this area. So these are the soccer fields. Now looking out west, there's 2 soccer fields. And then area 2, that's the footprint of the indoor recreation building and the parking associated. So you see splash pads, community plaza. Again, at some point, some of this could be value engineered if needed, but if you've got the space and you've got funding, these are the possibilities. And these things would help to bolster our deficiencies.
Be a lot of Christmas lights and stuff put on there.
Could be. So there's even F&B built, a food and beverage building, excuse me, at the northwest section of this footprint, as well as just south of that. Again, possibilities, but that's the general direction when it's coming from the master plan. So these are some elevations for that area. This is Community Plaza viewing east. Doesn't mean we're going to put an LED giant jumbotron there, but it's a possibility for those enjoying the space. And then you see the food and beverage building to the left of the photo, as well as a smaller play area for the kids. So very community-centric space. And then more sports courts. Again, the art is just inspirational and for visioning, but some type of sports courts in this area. Area 3 is that main trail artery that goes from east to west. $12 million for this portion of it. There's a lot of site work that would be needed for this, as well as coordination with TxDOT, because this would require us going under 1626. In some early due diligence and talking to TxDOT, they're open to this plan. We haven't gotten the details yet, but we needed to know that if we were to adopt this, that they would be on board and they didn't see any potential issues, but we got the green light from them to work towards this. And this is what that grade separated crossing would look like going under 1626. And then area 4 is the eastern portion of the complex, and so that's where the pickleball courts are in that upper corner, and then the trail system and all-inclusive play area. at the south end. There's even a disc golf course. So that's what the pickleball complex could look like, and that's what's estimated within that budget.
Excuse me, can pickleball courts double as tennis courts?
They could. What you typically see are like tennis courts that are striped for pickleball. Oops, that's the way you can accomplish that. So you can fit up to 4 pickleball courts in a regulation tennis court. It's tight, but if you're going to make them, like if you had if we had a tennis court and we're going to totally repurpose it for pickleball, then we could fit 4 if it was regulation size. If it's dual usage, you need to have the rollaway commercial type nets, and so it's recommended not to do more than 2 courts per tennis court. And then the lines would be different colors, but it works and it's very common. If you wanted to add tennis, you could potentially have a few courts that were tennis. Or
Are we gonna have tennis courts? Because we're taking those down.
we need to find tennis courts in our system to replace those. That's just, I mean, those weren't regulation, but 2 courts would be what we need to offset in our system. Could be here, could be at some other park or at the same park, depending on how the master plans. We're doing site master plans, just to remind you all, at Greg Clark Park, Steeplechase Park, Waterleaf Park, and Lake Kyle Park. So the same type of site master plan is being conducted right now for all of those, as well as the surveys.
I don't know a lot about pickleball, but do people watch that? Are there going to be stadium seats?
Pickleball is really social, and so it's recommended to have seating around courts because people are waiting their turn or they want to play with groups and they're rotating in and out. But if there was some type of championship type facility, sometimes you see like a center court. So you see something depicted here in the center that
Okay. I
might be
guess-
designated for that.
All right. Okay.
Is the vision then that if I wanted to go play, I'd go on rec desk and reserve a court?
That would be, for a complex, it might be a centralized management. We haven't gotten the details for the operations for that, but sometimes pickleball courts are just open play. On a complex like this, though, you might have a centralized management. But if it were in a park system, we would just leave it open to the public, and we just have etiquette rules, like how you rotate in and play nice together.
I do have one question. I understand that this is what the citizens of Kyle are asking, but do we think that we are dedicating a lot of space to possibly a trend that in 10 years it might be like racquetball is?
Yeah, those are definitely things that we have to look at. By our master plan, our 10-year goal, I mean, this is like a 20-year amenity, but we see no type of trajectory that says that it's going to drop. And it's probably because it's open and adaptable for all ages that you see, like, this is a sport that keeps people active and exercising. There's low barriers to entry as long as they're available and ready. You can play with teams. You don't have to be as it's not as cumbersome or it's not as tough on the body as, say, tennis is. And
Sure.
This is also something that doesn't take a lot of training. It's easy for somebody to pick up on it when they're out with a group of friends. So it's highly social. And I think that's why it continues to grow in popularity. But those are things we look at, because we've seen things in the past, like, well, tennis, for instance, having some cities in past where every park had a tennis court, and then in some of those cities, the demographics changed in the neighborhood, and kids were starting to use those tennis courts as futsal pitches. Mm-hmm. And so they would convert those to meet the demand. And it's just kind of a 30,000-foot view of what a all-inclusive destination playground could look like. Deputy Director Escoto, he scoffs because he knows there's a lot more possibilities when it comes to a destination-type all-inclusive playground. But this is just a sort of a placeholder to say the space is adequate, but you could see some really fascinating design concepts come out of something like this, as well as dog park areas. Little more detail. But again, it's not gonna, can assure you that the finished product won't look anything like that. There's a lot of work that goes into it by the various manufacturers and design firms that are going to be involved in the process once that portion gets funded. Okay, so in the timeline, the master plans have been adopted. Then we're going to look at a design contract to build out Phase 1A, as well as a feasibility study for an indoor recreation center I had talked about earlier. So we plan on taking a design contract to City Council for the full design of the outdoor sports complex for Area 1A, with the soccer fields and the championship court and the parking and that Cromwell extension, as well as a feasibility and master planning study for the interior. That would involve more public engagement for the interior piece as well, all part of the contract. But we're looking at $2.3 million for both of those design services. We've got funding for those already, and so that's the next step in the process. And who knows, if we can't say how fast the other pieces will come if they ever do come. But again, if it becomes a priority for the community and the funding is there, then we have the playbook. Are there any questions?
I have a question about how much the county match is.
$7 million. That was approved already through that 2022 interlocal agreement.
How do we plan on managing this alongside like Kensington Park and then the skate park? Like those are three massive projects to have oversight to vendors who typically you really have to stay on top of to make sure they're giving you what you are asking them to do.
Our project workload will afford this balance. We have so Will Atkinson, who's here this evening, is our Parks Planning and Projects Manager, but he also has a counterpart on the Public Works and Engineering side of the house who assist with that construction phase of things. So you have some in design and some through construction, and so we look at it as a balance of what's under construction, which is now Aaron's taking the front seat, Will takes the back seat. In that design phase, Will has a front seat and Aaron has the back seat consulting through. So they're always working together, but there's always that balance that we're working. Just as we're managing funding throughout various phases, same with the project workload.
But is there one will? Like to me, managing large contracts, you need like a will per project, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
well, there's a lot going on in different phases, and so certain phases, there's a lot of due diligence, which is mostly on the design firm, for instance. Whereas construction, you're going to have inspectors involved in that, like city inspectors, as well as the project manager that's on the engineering side of the house, and then Will as a tertiary. And then you have, sometimes things are really busy where you need a lot of boots on the ground. Other times you've got time to focus your attention elsewhere. So there's always a project balance, and there's check-ins on all of these projects. We have regular meetings with the consultants. So also involved in this are your design firm consultants. Every contract we have for construction, we also pay for the construction admin, so the design firms can continue to check the awarded construction contractor to make sure that they're building according to plans. So there's constant communication. So you think about Will's work week, Aaron's work week, the inspectors, Deputy Director Escoto is a part of a lot of those. I'm a part of some of those meetings as well. And it's a divide and conquer strategy. I think right now, it's definitely a lot busier than it was initially, but we're not. You didn't see Parks and Rec ask for a project coordinator within this budget season. We'd love for it to come to that point where we start seeing a lot more projects passing and getting funded to help build out the park system, but we're just not at that point yet.
Well, that part concerns me just because it's one person, and as soon as you start relying on developers or consultants to do what they're supposed to do is when we start having issues, right? So those are three massive projects, and you have two people interchanging the phases of the project. That's concerning to me.
Yeah, so are you concerned like
We're gonna lose oversight because there's gonna be so much movement, and these are large scale efforts with a lot of different people, meaning developers involved in it. you have to keep your thumb on them or they're not gonna be doing what they're supposed to be doing contractually, right?
Yeah, there's quality analysis and quality control phases throughout that, and so there are formulas that Will and Chris use to help balance those out. There's a lot of check-ins, there's a lot of site visits. I mean, we even use cameras in some cases with the playgrounds. We have a camera fixed on the playground at Steeplechase Park, but we haven't hit that breaking point yet, and we're not quite flirting with it there's an hour standard associated with the projects, and some of that, it's not a perfect science. Some of it's determined by the amount of funding that one project manager undergoes, but this is a capable team. We don't have the volume of projects to press that concern as of this point. Again, that could change. Things are getting approved, but we think we're at a good place.
It also depends on the consultants that we award the contract to. If we have a good relationship with them in the city, I mean, hopefully we'll, being the internal project manager, would be, coordinating with external project managers, hopefully that are as communicative.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for us to pay for those. Some of these design contracts, they're hefty, but typically they're anywhere from 10 to 15. Design is anywhere from 10 to 15% of overall construction costs, but we never skirt when it comes to construction admin. In fact, if we get a proposal back, we're like, we need construction admin built into this design contract, so you can assist us with that.
Yeah, board member Orgich too as well. Some other elements that we were able to add in the contract is you're speaking more on the QA/QC kind of side of the house, but also what they call the CA, which is Construction Administration Services, that there's a lot of those opportunities from those vendors, those contractors, that we're able to basically pay for their services to have that level of detail that you're exactly mentioning, but obviously there's checks and balances, right? The city has to assure themselves that we have that, but that is another added element that we are able to do.
Okay, I'm just speaking from experience, right? Because we get all these reports, like the developer's doing a thing, but do we have time to even look at the report? No, so then 6 months go by, stuff's not going right, it's like, oh, it was in the report, but we just didn't have the resources to actually.
Yeah, and that's probably like planning and development side of the house when it comes to new parks coming through, new construction for residential units. And so that's different than Parks and Rec driven projects.
Okay, all this to say is I don't want us to set ourselves up for failure because we have a great opportunity for big things, but we have to be prepared for it.
Absolutely.
Which then leads to my next question about the nomenclature of sportsplex. I think there's a lot of consternation because we're using that word and it is massive. What does that mean? Is it a stadium? Is it pay for play? Do you have a managed vendor? For us, if we want to go as citizens, do we get to go? It's very unclear, and I think 3 of us at least have been on the board since we started this, and we're fluctuating what we're calling it, so I think it's creating distrust of what we're actually going to get, so.
Yeah, what we're trying to do, because we feel that too, we're trying to be more clear with how we're defining, we say outdoor, there's a sports complex, sportsplex, and outdoor. We try to be consistent with language that showed up early because we didn't want to be accused of bait and switch. Hey, they're trying to change the name of it to hide the ball, pardon the pun, but hide the ball in the project. We wanted to be very transparent. Then we started talking about the indoor recreation because in earlier iterations, it sounded more like a field house versus indoor recreation. And so it was driven towards those early models were profit maximizing, economic boosting models. And based on the community feedback, we said, hey, do we want to have a little more control of that project? And we wanted to serve Kyle residents first and foremost, which is why even during the presentation to council, we were really trying to drive that home. And the task force has also been a part of it. And we said in this process, we really want to listen. And there were a lot of residents who were concerned that some of their concerns wouldn't make those presentations and conversations. And so what we wanted to show was good faith. We heard you, and we're going to say it in public meeting and put it in our presentations. But with sports complex, we made the clear distinction. This is the outdoor piece. There's an indoor component. The indoor component, there's a lot to be determined still, but we'd love for it to be all for Kyle, but there's a cost to it. And you probably won't recover if you with the indoor recreation model. I don't see very many, if any, cities who get full cost recovery. I see some cities saying, oh, we're full cost recovery with our memberships. and then you start to dig in the numbers, and they've understated some cost that are taken on by other city services. It's like you didn't capture those costs, so you're really not cost recovery. And typically, what we see is anywhere from 30 to 50% cost recovery on operations and maintenance. That's just on O&M, as opposed to like paying for the construction of it. So it's a city amenity. It's a city service in that regard.
Well, I think that's the first time, at least I've understood you to like be that clear with it. So it may be helpful to paint that picture. I don't know how you can do that now without then it seeming like bait and switch if we add any more context to it, right? But I think
Yeah.
that is very understandable, right? Like we can do both, where it's both fiscally responsible and we're providing these resources to the people of Kyle.
Yeah, at some point, there's got to be a balance, because if you go full city funded, then you bear the cost of that. But on the other side of that, like there's less risk with the contract with an outside vendor, and so there's this this cost benefit analysis, and there's risk associated with it. But our role in this is to convey the objective facts, what we heard during the process, what was important to Kyle, what was important by national standards. The feedback is there. We do have funding available, and so with that big, urgent, bleeding need with our sports infrastructure within the entire Parks and Rec system, that this site would solve for a lot of that with sports courts and soccer fields. And so there's money that's available, and so let's do something with it. What makes the most sense? But I appreciate that. We try with Donuts with Director or meeting with citizens one-on throughout this process, trying to be transparent. I think there's definitely some concerns that things will change, but again, as far as Park and Rec is concerned, like when you start getting into different models that are privately maintained, it's not really a Park and Rec facility at that point, and maybe it's more of an economic development thing. But as it stands now, Parks and Rec is in the driver's seat, I guess.
Guess one more question.
Yeah.
So for parking, I think I watched a planning and zoning maybe a year ago where did they change the bylaws for how many parking spaces you can have for a business? Because I know like if you go to some of these new restaurants, the parking lot is limited, and my understanding is that's because that's a rule set by P&Z.
Yeah, there's meeting minimum requirements. I won't play, none of us in here work for planning development, even though one person used to. We just, in our world, we meet the parking requirements as dictated by them. However, we have to use a different metric, so that's the minimum. So it doesn't mean you have to build to the minimum. By recommendation, we would say if this were, for instance, like, it is an outdoor sports complex master plan, so let's just use that. I think the ratio is on average like 2.5 persons per vehicle, and so we take, all right, what's the capacity for service here? And so ideally, how much parking should we build to accommodate this type of usage? By virtue of that, we're going to hit those minimums, but we're focusing on what's practical.
Okay, and that's where I'm going with it, right? Because City of Kyle's zero walkability, so most people are going to have to drive a vehicle there. And I live off of Bunton Lane, where there's the four-star baseball field. That's someone else's problem, right? But there's a bunch of cars where they're making essentially a homemade parking lot to try to fit those cars in there. So what we don't want is that to happen here, because I don't know whose land that is, but they're creating issues over there, right? Because there's not enough parking spaces. And then like in most things, if you're having a sporting event for children, it's probably going to be 3 vehicles per kid, right? You have grandparents and family, and how do we take that in consideration ahead of time, right? And you're better off having more parking than not enough, right? In some circumstances. So how are you doing the math on that?
Yeah, there's ratios that are used, and that's what we would target first versus how do we meet the minimum requirements. This is in the brick and mortar district where there are some other parking plans associated with that district that we could potentially partner with. The nice thing also about Kyle is I worked for other municipalities with recreation centers, and there's a lot of drop-off traffic that comes through. What we would love to see is, like, these are parents that have to take their time or find some arrangement for their children, especially the teenagers, to get to a recreation center who aren't driving yet. And we see that driving age moving back past 16. When I was starting to drive, and maybe some of you all could attest to this, we couldn't wait till we were 16 and driving. But you're seeing that that's not the case as much these days. And maybe some kids are waiting until they're 18 years old before that. But having the Uber 314 program, no city I worked for had anything like that. Didn't have it where buses even drop you off in front of a recreation center. So I think that's an added benefit that we really should continue to expound upon.
Sounds like that would help with the mobility plan,
Maybe so.
get people to and fro.
Yeah. Any other questions? Does Park Board support the general direction that the department is recommending for starting with Area 1A and moving into design?
Do you need us to sort of weigh in on concept A versus B?
Well, this is the adopted site plan. It's the last one I just showed you all. I can get back to it. These are such heavy slides. But I'll just go to the phasing one. Getting there. Wait for it.
And he's not asking for a motion, he just wants to
Yeah, it's just
get more
feedback,
feedback.
but this has been adopted, but the phasing is Area 1A moving with design for the outdoor piece, and then starting that due diligence and feasibility study for the indoor that I had ended the presentation with. You feel comfortable with that general direction?
I'm personally comfortable with the direction. I think that y'all did do your due diligence, and I'm excited for it.
Are you going to articulate the phased approach to the community? Like, essentially, you'll do one successfully, right? And then move on to phase two, get confidence from the city. So is this going to be broadly communicated that you're doing it phased?
Yeah, and Board Member Orgish, one thing we're realizing is not everybody tunes in for council meetings. We had spoken extensively about that during the presentation to City Council, but maybe there's some way where we can talk about next steps. If a contract's approved by council, this is what this means. These are next steps, and even though it may be that the master plan being adopted doesn't mean we are committed to funding this. Just says if you do fund these things, this is the strategy you employ. That's what a master plan does. But it doesn't mean you're committed to spending $161 million, which, by the way, is that's today's opinion of probable cost of construction. As time goes on, that does increase, but this is a strategy.
Are there any more questions? And we'll,
No, I thank you for your feedback. I saying this, you're comfortable with the direction, at least for taking those small steps. And we're going to take an item to council, I believe it's August 19th, to start with that design phase contract for just that Area 1A, because that's what we have funding for now.
in this budget period, is there anything that we can do to help advocate for the request you've made?
I appreciate Park Board's advocacy. We see it throughout the community. Remember, we mentioned Board Member Ramirez speaking at the last ribbon cutting event. Board Member Orgish, you spoke at an unveiling. Board Member Ermis, you've spoken and been a part of several events, and we're going to continue to involve more of you in this process too. We're picking what you're passionate about. It made sense for us to invite Mr. Ramirez because he's been a big advocate of sports and low barrier to entry opportunities for the kids in Kyle, and so we want to get you all involved, but we see you out there. As you're informed on this, we feel like this is a great investment, and we get a great return because you all are out there setting the record straight, giving more detail whenever there's questions, and that is more than we could ask for. In regard to the budget process, the city manager made his recommendations. We felt like, well, Park and Recreation, we had 23 different supplementals that we asked for, but we talked about the consequences if we didn't get a certain supplemental, and these things were to enhance. But our highest priorities were some of our biggest ticket items, and the top three
city manager is recommending and found a funding strategy to give us those. And so it was a special events coordinator, because we're doing more special events with the same amount of folks, and that's an area we were concerned about. So we said, hey, we've moved the needle there, and we need a full-time equivalency so we're not spreading our existing recreation staff thin and trying to cover. And then we also have, we needed a supervisor position to oversee the facility, 1500 AC, senior facility, and to help with programming, to help with the building management. And so that was recommended by the city manager. He found funding for that, so we were excited. And the other one was a bucket truck. So in order to get compliance with the new lighting standards so our staff can safely work on those, we needed a bucket truck, and they're not cheap. And the city manager also found the strategy and recommended that. So we think, even though we didn't get 23, we got our biggest, and we feel like the park system is still moving forward. But thank you all.
Thank you. One more comment. Last week, the county, they have this group on aging, and they came out with the 3-page quarterly newsletter that they're looking for ways to distribute. And we have an email distribution of 700 people. But I wondered, it's a free resource. The county has a lot of money. This isn't a good way to take that free resource, distribute it through the city resources. The county traditionally has a lot more money, and if this is a way we can please the county, it could be a good return on our, there won't be any investment, just maybe communications is the person that would do that, I don't know, but
If you'd like to send me an email, I can ensure that gets
I
passed
will
on to the right
forward that
individual.
to you, and you can bounce it around. One more thing about the county is there's going to be competition for the county judge position. Michelle Cohen, our current county commissioner, is running against the current county judge for, in the primary election. And then school board member Johnny Flores will continue on school board, but he'll run for the commissioner's position. So that traditionally the county has been very San Marcos central. The money goes to San Marcos, but we're growing and we deserve more. And thoughts.
Yeah, and in the future, just a lot of items we talked about tonight. And so if there's ever an item that you guys want us to bring forward or think it's appropriate for board, just feel free to email us so we can stay true to the agenda and not talk about topics that are off. And then we can really spend the time, if it's, for Park and Recreation, give you the time and drill down on some of those tough questions or even opportunities. We'd be happy. But feel free to email us at any point if you guys have any ideas or things that may come up that pique your interest. Sometimes it's a simple response back, or sometimes it's a good opportunity for a full presentation.
One more thing, St. David's Hospital, they're deciding in the next 6 months whether they're going to go ahead with the 500-bed hospital or whether they're just going to do some kind of makeshift emergency services center. And I would think that the city would want the full-blown thing. And if there's a concerted effort to make that happen, health and wellness, I mean, it's kind of under Parks and Rec, right? I don't know who else would be under.
Yeah. I think you sent me an email on that, and there's been some that I forwarded along to others to maybe help, and just if anything, as an FYI.
Yes, they gave us $11,000 back during COVID, and we still, CAS has contacts with them. If we could tie those together, we'd be happy to support whatever the city's trying to do.
Thank you all.
Okay, I'll call for adjournment. Do we need to set the next meeting? What's that? Do we need to set the next meeting? It'll be the motion to adjourn. Who is first motion for adjournment?
Are you asking when the next meeting is? I was asking if we needed to set the next meeting time before we adjourn, or, nope, okay.
Same.
Then I move for us to adjourn.
Yes. First, second by Ryan, moved by Ann. All in favor? Aye. Adjourned at 7:47.